For some reason, recently, it doesn't seem like Sony, especially with the PlayStation brand, have found themselves in a good place, or at least seem to be in some concerning news. I'd say first, at least in the UK, a consumer rights active advocacy group is suing Sony for charging a 30% commission fee on all digital purchases made through the UK PlayStation Store. So it's a class action lawsuit that seeks to distribute billions of dollars to players who have used the PlayStation UK Store since August 2016. The lawsuit itself was recently filed at a London's Competition Appeal Tribunal and is accusing Sony for abusing its market dominance by imposing unfair conditions on developers and then make excessive and unfair prices to consumers. And that's really fair when you consider the daily expenses and cost of living in the UK, especially in London. But a quote I got saying, "The drive towards in-game purchases allows companies like Sony to profiteer and abuse their power because they have a captive audience." Alex Neil, the leading claim, said, "Sony knows its customers and are hooked once they are part of the PlayStation world, and it exploits them with exorbitant charges on every digital purchase." And that is fair. I mean, unless you take advantage of really deep discounts, there can be a lot of extreme price tags. But then again, it's not an issue that I face, at least where I'm living in. Excuse me. So first, a judge needs to approve the suit as an opt-out collective action before it can progress in trial. Once the claim itself is certified, it could sweep in like 8.9 customers and garner as much as 5 billion pounds. Yeah, £5 billion, which is equivalent of like $5.9 billion in damages, which is a massive amount. I mean, like $6 billion for costly damages in a lawsuit like this is something that doesn't happen all the time. So it's like just basically costly damages for high expenses of digital games and extra content for their PlayStation consoles since that time is in the lawsuit. And, the argument for the Sony is that they're looked at as having like a near monopoly on digital sales for their games, especially when it comes to exclusives there. And yeah, I get that the prices are unreasonable since Sony are enforcing like a 30% take on their storefronts. Although maybe the Epic Games they had something similar. There was a lawsuit between Epic and Apple regarding the use of Fortnite, and then Fortnite got removed from iOS, supposedly. Or unless Epic Games had the exception of like having a 30% intake. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see if the UK courts decide if PlayStation are having a monopoly in terms of the digital gaming market. And how will this affect even Xbox, Nintendo, even Steam as well? Valve with the Steam PC gaming store as well. And one of the important details that the plaintiff has said is that in terms of all the industry consumer use around the UK, gaming more than anything is often used as well, even more so than movies, TV shows, streaming, whatever it is. And this comes at a time where, yes, not many people can afford the high expensive games, especially since PS5 games and even Series X is like $70. But with cost of living is becoming really high, and consumer purchases are being squeezed like never before. And this is really weird timing as well, because as this lawsuit was filed, Sony announced a price increase for their PS5 console across the globe in multiple regions, although not in America, not in every region, but it's said to be happening, I think, in Europe and Canada. Wow. in, in countries as well, like even Mexico as well. So you'll easily find an article about PS5 price sales, but it's gone up to like an extra $50, for example. Even in Mexico, like an extra $1,000. But it's just crazy. Like, it's really frustrating to me when a new console like this becomes even more expensive than it was. Like initially from $500 to like what, 550, or even like in some countries even more. Like, it just makes me even less and less excited about something like this, to a point where I have to wonder if I just have to make a simple upgrade to the Pro model of the same PS4 console. Like, it's a little frustrating. I've been finding PS5s like $650 or even $700, and that's a great, that's egregious. That's something I wouldn't want to buy or do. It's not worth that a high expense. Bundled with the game or not, it, especially since it's big anyway. But it's just a lot to ask. It's just really frustrating. Like, what's with these anti-consumer practices? And the interesting thing is that at the same time, statements from Microsoft and Nintendo stating that, at least right now, later it's unknown, but right now they certainly don't have any plans to increase the price tags of their consoles. So the Switch are still going to be very affordable, and really Nintendo Switches are really affordable. Even the OLED is like, well, like what, 350? And the funny thing is that I remember finding an OLED Switch model just close to where I work in the day, like at $330, which is amazing value. That really is really, really good value. And while I found Series X consoles like $600, which I don't like, at least in other major markets, it's like $500, and the Series S is at $300. And I really love how small and powerful the Series S is at $300, so that's really good. And it really does make the purchase of something like that really worth it. So right now, they're not looking good, Sony. I mean, especially when you consider exclusives that have come out, and comes out at a time when like early November, God of War Ragnarok is coming, November 9. It is cross-gen, but it is really important that it succeeds on PS5. Who's going to buy a now extremely expensive console and a PS5 game that's going to be like at $70? It's just becoming a really, really tough sell right now. It's just becoming even more frustrating, discouraging, and it's just like, what's the point? Okay, sure, like even someone like me, if I do become interested in like 3, 4 years, fine, but something really has to change for it to be more accessible and consumer friendly prices.